Genius, get onto my show. I can imagine. I've always thought that conducting, like the Holy Grail, is orchestral conducting, right, and symphonic conducting.
Mm-hmm.
But then I also see as operatic conducting. I feel like that you have to be a symphonic conductor and a soloist conductor at the same time and juggle all of these things. That seems to be the hardest job.
Yeah.
To
Oh,
be an opera
absolutely.
conductor.
I think. I mean, that's what really.
That's where the
separates
rubber meets the road, right?
separates the girls from the women.
That's kind of what I feel too.
Yeah.
And do
yeah,
you
because
find
there's so many more variables. I mean, there's so many more things that can go wrong. And the fact that the players can't hear the singers very well. I mean, in a concert situation, basically people can hear each other, and so they can.
That sense of ensemble is
they
present.
can use their ears and trust their ears to help make the music happen. In opera, you don't necessarily. You really are translating for especially if the winds are under the stage and they're accompanying the singers in a line with a lot of vibrato. I mean, you've got to be on that.
Do you think that's more of a modern convention because orchestras are required to play so loudly and now that they can't hear the singers? Is that kind of, do you think, I can't imagine that in 18th and 19th century Europe that was a problem.
Yeah.
Where there must have been more of a sense of ensemble and houses that seat 1,000 people.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with the size of the house, the layout of
And the expectation
orchestra
of the
pits.
audience.
And also the as you say, simply the volume that orchestras play at. As the instruments have gotten more and more efficient, and the technology has gotten better and better for woodwind instruments, and going from gut strings to steel strings for the strings. Yeah, I mean it's just a lot more sound that's coming from the orchestra.
What do you prefer to conduct the most? Do you split them evenly in your mind as far as what is more artistically fulfilling for you, or do you really have a preference?
I love the fact that I can do both.
Yeah.
And if I only was doing opera or only doing concert, I think I'd feel kind of cheated.
You'd feel like you felt when you were a pianist.
Because it has to be said. I mean, conducting concert generally is so much for the conductor. It's so much simpler. But it's fun to have there's a. Let's just put it this way. When I'm conducting in the opera pit, I have to change shirts at each intermission.
Right. Yeah.
It's just like
it's blue collar work.
Yeah. It's hands on.
Yeah.
And it's working without a net.
Yeah, right. Well, so many things can go wrong. Like you said, there's so many variables. I mean, I've been in a production where a candelabra fell over and lit stuff on fire. Shit like that happens. And you have to deal
and mainly
with it.
The show goes on.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I mean, we had a soprano faint on stage once. And
what?
Yeah. Wow. And the lady walked out with her headset and said, "Is there a doctor in the house?" And John DeMain's baton is up the whole time, waiting for her to stand up. Yeah. So it's, I can imagine that
shit happens.
Yeah. What's your least favorite part of your job or jobs? Like, for instance, I know that February and March are tense.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think.
How do you deal with that?
I think the hardest thing is certain aspects of casting and auditioning. It's also, conversely, there's parts of it that are the most rewarding and inspiring, because you get to hear the incredible talent that's here in LA. But yeah, how
do you make those decisions? Like because you're so magnanimous and you're so friendly, I would imagine that
I go home and kick the dogs.
Yeah, right. You have to say yes and no to people that you really love, and how do you reconcile that? Like, I would have trouble. I mean, I know that we're all professionals and nobody's going to put poop in your mailbox or anything like that. I mean,
Well, you'd be surprised.
But is that a difficult thing for you every year?
It's hard. It's hard having those kind of conversations. But it is, it's simply an important part of building and maintaining an ensemble. I don't pretend to be perfect.
And it is practical. I mean, it's just a practical professional thing that has to happen.
Yeah. And my hope is that I establish over the years, enough trust and
consistency,
consistency that that people at least understand that that right or wrong, I'm coming at these decisions from the art and from the health of the organization and the ensemble.